This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
As the coronavirus continues its march across Africa, we tell you how governments are responding to the crisis and how the pandemic is affecting the everyday lives of people on the continent. Plus, Somali forces kill nearly 150 Al-Shabaab militants. Hello and a very warm welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongana in Nairobi. Also coming up this hour. In business, South Africa's rand plunges to an all-time low after Moody's downgraded the country's investment status to junk. And in sports, the IOC sets new dates for a rescheduled Tokyo Olympic Games. We start with our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic. The number of confirmed cases in Africa is rising by the day. Over 5,000 cases have now been confirmed across the continent, where several countries have imposed lockdowns and restricted international flights to help contain the virus. Let's take a closer look at what's happening in Ghana now. The country has shut down parts of the country, including the capital, Accra. This lockdown is set to stay in place for about 2 weeks, while health officials step up the testing of people for COVID-19. CGTN's Nabil Ahmad Rufai reports from Accra.
Life hasn't been the same for many Ghanaians since the outbreak of the coronavirus. People can no longer move about freely during this lockdown in Accra, Tema, Kaswa and Greater Kumasi. Police officers and soldiers have been deployed to mount roadblocks to enforce the shutdown. Operations of intercity public transport have all been grounded to prevent people from moving in and out of the lockdown areas that have been described as hotspots for the coronavirus. President Nana Akufo-Addo has urged people to stay home as much as they can and only go out when they need essential items such as drugs or foodstuff. Many Ghanaians are concerned this lockdown will adversely affect their livelihoods, but agree it has become crucial to avoid further spread of the coronavirus. The government has formed a response risk and social mobilization team to test residents in the lockdown areas as well as people who may have come into contact with those who tested positive for COVID-19. Ghana has only 2 laboratory centers for testing of the coronavirus. Some health experts say this isn't enough to provide timely results of the hundreds of samples that will be taken for testing within the 2-week lockdown. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
Now, most of the streets in Zimbabwe's major cities were deserted and businesses shut as a 21-day national lockdown went into effect on Monday. President Emmerson Mnangagwa ordered the lockdown to prevent the spread of COVID-19. 8 cases of the disease have been confirmed in the southern African country.
There was a last-minute rush for essential supplies and efforts to make final sales by informal business people ahead of a 21-day lockdown. Uncharted territory for Zimbabweans, some of whom are not sure how they'll get by.
I have no choice but to obey the directive because we don't want the disease to spread, but I don't know if we'll have enough to feed my family because I survive on what I make each day.
It's not just vendors who are affected. All non-essential businesses, including private commuter transport, will also be grounded.
Unlike salaried employees, we don't have any savings. We live from hand to mouth. So the 21-day shutdown is too long for us.
The situation for many informal businesses here is exacerbated by an ongoing economic crisis that's left some fearful that being forced to stop operating for 21 days may be the final push that tips them over the edge.
We are in hyperinflation. Businesses are surviving from month to month. All that has not been considered, and in fact government has not even put in place anything at all to cushion businesses or to cushion employees. Never mind the majority of the people who are in the informal sector. So this lockdown, I think, was not a very well thought through strategy, in my opinion. It's going to have severe implications if it works at all.
There have been calls for the government to step in to protect everyone, beyond business people who are the most vulnerable.
The government should supply food to especially in the high-density areas, just like they do in rural food for work schemes, because if I can't drive my taxi for the next 21 days, it means my family and extended family in the village will go hungry.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa is yet to provide details of the support his government has pledged for those who will be socially affected by COVID-19. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Meanwhile, the national lockdown in South Africa continues, and people in Gauteng are still queuing outside supermarkets to buy basic essentials. Authorities have tried to enforce social distancing to reduce the risk of the spread of the disease, but are having little luck. Angela Coppola has more.
The disease is a once-in-a-generation event, and many people are struggling to come to terms with the implications.
It's too bad. Sometimes, I don't know. First thing I saw it since I was born, so sometimes I'm just stuck. I can't even imagine what's happening exactly.
Part of comprehending the scale of the pandemic is information sharing. A Department of Health-driven app has been operating since the 18th of March, and it's had a significant impact.
South African programs now being launched in 5 languages: English, Zulu, Xhosa, Sesotho, and Afrikaans. And we reached over 3.2 million people since we launched, sending over 60 million messages.
On a practical level, many believe the government could have handled the lockdown differently.
I think they didn't plan it properly because they just announced it 2 days before people got money. Now that social distance, it's like their effort is not paying at all because no one is keeping that distance because everyone wants to get inside the shops and buy whatever they are buying.
Now it's a problem because how long we're going to be like this? Because every day, like if you don't have body, you have to come out to the shop and then do shopping. Like when you see like this, how are you going to manage that? It's not easy.
People are concerned about getting infected and are worried because there's no personal protective equipment to buy.
Here locally, we don't have these centers where we test, we don't have gloves, we don't have masks, everything is run out. So it's like those things, they didn't plan it totally. We are very worried. If one of us contaminates the disease, which means this whole queue is likely to get contaminated.
One of the basic tenets of trying to stop the spread of this disease is social distancing of between 2 meters and possibly even 3 meters. And that's not happening in many areas where people living in high-density environments need to get their shopping done. The queues stretch for kilometers in some cases. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Yeovil, South Africa.
Staying in South Africa, crowds of senior residents in the township of Soweto have been collecting their social grants. They're doing this despite being more at risk of becoming severely ill from the coronavirus. But for many, waiting in queues is the only way to receive their grants.
We are scared of being sick, but there is nothing we can do. What are we going to eat? We are here to get paid so that we can buy food.
We are scared of falling ill. As you can see, most of us are the elderly. We are covering our mouths with masks because we don't know how this will end.
Uganda is also under a lockdown in an effort to halt the spread of the coronavirus in the country. The order was given by President Yoweri Museveni. The 14-day period will be used to identify, trace and isolate individuals who have come into contact with confirmed cases. The country has already closed its borders and banned public transport. The movement of private vehicles was prohibited from Monday, 10 p.m. local time. People have been fleeing the cities for fear of contracting the disease, as well as the increased costs of living in the cities. Shopping malls and businesses selling non-food items will remain closed. Included in the lockdown is a nationwide curfew beginning at 7 p.m. And let's now head north to North Africa, to Egypt, where massive efforts are underway to disinfect all public spaces in the capital, as well as other cities. Fears of a major COVID-19 outbreak have forced Egypt into a partial curfew. Here's CGTN's Adel Al-Makhri with more.
For about 2 weeks, the Egyptian government has been launching major disinfection campaigns. All students and nearly half of Egypt's workforce are now staying at home. Cairo is using that drop in human traffic to disinfect all public places.
Government offices and buildings are now disinfected at least twice a week. We have also cut down the number of employees. We've made everyone who has chronic disease, pregnant women, or those with children stay at home. The rest of the workforce are present daily due to the emergency state we are in.
The Egyptian Agriculture Ministry's prevention departments are leading the sterilization efforts in most civilian locations. Fearing further widespread or possible mutations for COVID-19 among domestic animals, they inspect breeding farms. They have also increased the number of disinfection rounds at Egypt's and the region's biggest slaughterhouse, which is now getting disinfected twice every day.
On a daily basis, thousands of animals and thousands of citizens walk in this place. Butchers, truck drivers or residents come here to trade. We are sanitizing this place routinely, but this session is designed for the coronavirus.
The Egyptian Interior Ministry too is joining these sterilization efforts. It has shut down its public services offices, which issues personal identification documents, and has begun cleansing them. While the armed forces has released videos of bigger operations that has targeted Cairo University and areas near military bases. Egypt is on a partial lockdown, fearing wider spread of COVID-19. With most public places shut, Cairo is disinfecting itself to keep those who are still going to work safe and prepare the rest of the country for a possible return to a normal life, hopefully sooner than later. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
South Sudan's government has suspended training of unified opposition and government forces to try and prevent the spread of the coronavirus in the country. The training is part of security sector reforms agreed upon in the 2018 peace deal that ended 6 years of war in the country. CGTN's Patrick Oyet has the details.
The training of the unified forces is a vital component of the 2018 peace agreement. It is meant to ensure the country never returns to war. There are 19 training centers for the unified forces across South Sudan. The South Sudan's People's Defense Force now says the training is suspended for a month to try and avoid the spread of the COVID-19. South Sudan's health ministry says it has designated a center to be used as an isolation ward for those suspected of having contracted coronavirus.
South Sudan remains COVID-19 free, even though there are a number of alerts we are investigating at the moment, 4 alerts.
The government has banned all social gatherings, sports, religious events, weddings and political activities are also suspended. Schools are closed. Employees are required to work for only half a day. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Now, Ugandan authorities are cracking down on people who are defying presidential directives aimed at containing the spread of COVID-19. So far, 5 religious leaders and hundreds of taxi drivers have been arrested and only released after being cautioned. CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga reports.
A partial lockdown. Security officers enforce a presidential directive banning public transport.
All taxis, minibuses, all buses, all passenger trains, all tuk-tuks, the tricycles, and all the border-borders. These all are suspended.
They are considered to be a danger to public health. However, the ban is particularly impacting low-income earners.
People are at home, they are not working, and there is no way they can get money. So I'm requesting the president to come out and give some strong directive to these people.
The government is only allowing private cars with 2 passengers and cargo trucks on the road. They have also advised employers to continue operations with only essential staff. Religious gatherings have also been banned. Despite putting these measures in place, Uganda continues to register an increase in cases. Authorities are now encouraging people to stay home and also practice hygiene. Uganda is unlikely to wash its hands of coronavirus imminently, but it's hoped the enforcement of social distancing measures will slow its spread. Hilary Isga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
And to the United States now, where President Donald Trump says he's had no choice but to extend social distancing guidelines until the end of April. This comes as more states issue orders for people to stay at home. Nathan King reports from the White House.
Gone is the unrealistic goal of reopening the U.S. economy in weeks. Now it will be another month at least.
We have no other choice. Every one of us has a role to play in winning this war. Every citizen, family, and business can make the difference in stopping the virus. This is our shared patriotic duty. Challenging times are ahead for the next 30 days.
The US president was upbeat, however, on testing for the virus, even showing off a new machine that promised results within minutes. But behind closed doors on a video conference with the nation's governors, several are saying they're still short of tests, medical equipment and hospital beds. And as the number of cases and deaths climb, more states are tightening restrictions.
This virus is spreading rapidly and exponentially. To researchers and medical experts, they're saying that in 2 weeks' time, the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia areas could look like New York and the tri-state area.
Aid is arriving. A U.S. Navy hospital ship sailed into New York with much fanfare. Less reported, more and more supplies being flown in from China by a White House-led airlift operation. But even with these added measures, members of the U.S. coronavirus task force are talking about between 100,000 and 200,000 dead at the bare minimum. In the race against this virus, it's not clear yet whether the U.S. is winning. Nathan King, CGTN, at the White House.
Meanwhile, a giant floating hospital has arrived in New York City, offering fresh hope in the struggle against the coronavirus. But the ship is actually going to be treating non-COVID-19 patients who are suffering from other medical conditions. CGTN's Sarah Walton has more from New York.
This is the U.S. hospital ship Comfort, usually dispatched to scenes of natural disasters and to war zones. Now it is here in port in New York City to help in the fight against COVID-19. It won't actually be treating patients with the virus. Its aim is to relieve pressure on hospitals in New York by seeing to patients that need treatment for other conditions. Now, it arrived into the port here just after 11 a.m. on Monday. On board are 1,000 hospital beds, 80 intensive care beds and 12 operating rooms. It's expected to start receiving patients on Tuesday, and this is going to be a very welcome sight to healthcare workers in New York as confirmed cases of COVID-19 continue to rise. The Navy says, though, that the Comfort can only be of help if they are able to keep it free of COVID-19, and they are taking very strict measures to try to ensure that. All crew were screened for the virus before they boarded. Crew will not be allowed to disembark, and there will be strict limits on who is allowed on board. The captain of the ship says they are going to try and create a sort of bubble around the ship to try to keep the patients on board and the crew safe. The captain also says they will remain here in port in New York City for as long as they're needed. Sarah Walton, CGTN, New York.
Israel's Prime Minister is now in quarantine. It is a precaution after one of his staffers tested positive for COVID-19. But Benjamin Netanyahu's office says he had not come in contact with that particular aide recently. Still, he will be tested by Tuesday for the coronavirus, and his close associates have also been told to self-quarantine. Now, China is facing huge pressure to contain imported cases of the virus. Authorities say they've taken measures to prevent possible infections flowing into China.
At the moment, we have 65 entry ports. Among them, 34 ports have been kept open. The other ports or entry points have been shut due to the seasonal reason or pandemic control reason. The remaining 34 points are only for cargo transportation, while we have only a limited number for travelers or personnel movements.
In the meantime, there are still a number of patients under treatment at hospitals in China. Those with severe conditions dropped to under 700 over the weekend. They're now being separated from mild cases and transferred to specialist hospitals. Last Tuesday, the National Health Commission required targeted use of medical resources. This to make sure critical patients receive the timely care they need. Patient transfer began last Thursday. It is expected to be completed in about a week. We take a look at some other news from around the continent when we return. Coming up, Somalia's army kills nearly 150 Al-Shabaab militants. And the coronavirus pandemic sparks a food security concern in Uganda.
Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
Let's head to Somalia now, where the army says it's killed more than 100 gunmen in efforts to liberate a strategic town that's crucial to Al-Shabaab's operations. CGTN's Abdulaziz Billo has more from Mogadishu.
This army bulldozer is clearing a road previously used by Al-Shabaab to launch guerrilla attacks on government forces in the lower Shabelle region. The Somali army, backed by its allies, recently captured the agricultural town of Janale, 90 kilometers southwest of Mogadishu from Al-Shabaab, for the first time in years. This is the man leading the operation to liberate Lower Shabelle from Al-Shabaab's control. The region is widely considered as the epicenter of the decades-long insurgency.
We have inflicted heavy losses to the enemy, including deaths and injuries. We have captured weapons and several militant commanders who were wanted by the government. We are now in full control of Janale. Security is improving. We call upon all displaced persons to return, including farmers, to continue with the task of building the nation.
The army puts the death toll at 142. The months-long offensive has seen the army capture strategic towns and villages, denying the group revenue critical to sustaining its operations. Dozens of African Union troops were killed here 5 years ago after militants stormed an army base belonging to a Ugandan contingent of the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM. At this public gathering, the local administration met the community, mostly farmers, and urged them to cooperate with security forces in ensuring security is restored.
For the next 2 weeks, public transport will not be allowed. We have confiscated all motorbikes to prevent the militants from planting landmines within the town. We will lift the ban in the coming days after we secure the town. I call on you all to comply with the rules.
Washington has been instrumental in recent army successes, with close to 30 aerial strikes on militant targets in the region. US-trained troops known as DANAP have also managed to take control of strategic bridges from where militants launched deadly car bomb attacks in Mogadishu in the past. Experts say increasing pressure on the militant group is the only solution to achieving a great success on the battlefield. Army commanders say that the downfall of Janale is a clear example of Somalia's readiness to take over security responsibility from the African Union force AMISOM. Abdulaziz Billo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
An estimated 23% of Nigeria's population suffer from hearing impairments, and the figure continues to rise even globally. Noise pollution, drug misuse, and care facilities are areas where government intervention is needed. As CGTN's Kelechi Emekalam reports, the lack of ENT facilities in the country makes treatment less accessible.
Mother of 3, Patricia Giang leads a support group of women with hearing impairments in north-central Plateau State. She was born with a hearing defect. Her mother took ill while pregnant for Patricia, and the ailment affected her ability to hear.
My parents took me to different hospitals when I was a baby. They tried to treat me, but there was no way for me to hear. I have accepted my fate because I am tired of going to different hospitals for treatment since when I was a little girl up till now. I was told that many children have gone abroad for treatments, and when they come back, they still can't hear. And I feel it's a waste of time.
Like Patricia, an estimated 23% of Nigeria's 200 million population suffer from one form of hearing disorder or another. Environmental factors like noise pollution, accidents, health issues, and drug misuse account for most of the cases. Although it is easy to access an audiologist in Nigeria, ENT facilities are inadequate and ill-equipped for preliminary checks. And such specialized treatments come very costly in the few private hospitals that offer the services.
The facilities are not readily available. Even here as a teaching hospital, this is not equipped enough to be able to check screen children. We don't have enough, and because we expect as a teaching hospital, we still have facilities to be able to say, okay, like other countries, a child is born, before the child leaves the hospital, you screen the child, be sure the child can hear or not. A cochlear implant that talks about millions of naira. Who can afford 5 or 6 million in this country for a cochlear implant?
Noise-induced hearing loss is prevalent in Nigeria, but there are no government policies that protect citizens against it.
We expect laws should be able to enact to check those who use music clubs. If you have policies like that, that checks those, okay, if you have to play your music to advertise, you use it as a certain decibels. Hearing are the major decibels. If it goes beyond this, we will come after you. That is okay. We say industries need to get what? Preventive measures. Like, okay, well, of course, there are noisy environment. We should be able to provide ear muffs and plugs for the workers. And if there are policies that check those things, then that we're able to help protect the rights of those workers.
Experts warn that an upgrade of specialized facilities is needed at this time, especially with a surge in cases of hearing impairments, more so as hearing cells continue to degenerate with aging. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Plateau, Nigeria.
Now, the spread of COVID-19 has led to food security fears across Africa. To address concerns, experts in Uganda have advised people that small-scale gardening can contribute to maintaining food supplies. CGTN's Leon Senyange tells us more.
The rush for food in downtown Kampala. People rush to stock up amid the COVID-19 crisis. But on the outskirts of the capital, Diana Nambatia is comfortable. She has enough here to last her many months.
On this just half an acre, I'm unable to sustain the demand for my vegetables and for all these other things, including my strawberries.
Unlike Nambatia, many other people struggle to get food. Since the first COVID-19 case was announced here, food prices have gone up. The vegetables sold in this market cost about $1 a week ago. They now cost twice the amount. Limited public transportation has also affected food supplies to the urban areas. Experts now warn the situation could get worse.
Right now, many plantations don't have workers, and also many plantations have been established to export products, and most of them produce things which we cannot consume every day as food. For example, tea, sugar, oil seeds, and other kind of stuff. And many plantations have neglected the basic foodstuffs.
And to meet the demand, experts advise that small-scale gardening can contribute to maintaining food supplies during the pandemic.
It's very, very important for African communities to have a vegetable garden, to have a pulse garden, right in front of your house or even on the balcony to have some vegetables which you can eat as a salad or which you can feed to your children, even in terms of crisis as we are waiting for more food to come.
With the increasing number of COVID-19 cases in Uganda, the government has imposed strict measures. There are likely to be more long days at home as governments impose lockdowns. And many in Kampala worry about not having enough to eat if food supplies are disrupted. Leon Sanyange, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Let's take a short break. Your business news up next. Coming up, South Africa's rand plunges into an all-time low after Moody's downgrades the country's investment rating to junk. And the United States is scrutinizing Cote d'Ivoire's cocoa industry over allegations of child labor.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The South African rand has plummeted to an all-time low, slipping just below 18 rand to the dollar. That's after ratings firm Moody's cut the country's investment-grade credit rating to junk on Friday. This heaps more pain on a country already in recession. Moody's is the last of the big three agencies to downgrade Africa's most industrialized economy. It had left South Africa on the brink of junk in November when it revised its outlook to negative. But in February, a national budget showed a worsening fiscal picture. Output is also now set to be dented as workers have been told to stay at home for 21 days to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Cote d'Ivoire's cocoa industry is facing fresh scrutiny over child labor. This from one of its most important export markets, the United States. U.S. customs authorities have asked cocoa traders in Cote d'Ivoire to report where and when they encounter child labor in their supply chains in the world's top cocoa producer. This follows increased pressure in the United States after two senators last July asked the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol to block the import of Ivorian cocoa produced with forced labor. The U.S. bought around $600 million worth of cocoa beans and paste last year. That's around 15% of Cote d'Ivoire's cocoa exports. A partial blockage could increase the cost of chocolate and have a crippling effect on Ivorian exports. And on to Somalia now, where authorities have announced a ban on local and international flights to curb the spread of the coronavirus. CGTN's Abdulaziz Billo has more.
A contractor with the United Nations mission in Somalia is the latest person to test positive for coronavirus. The country now has 3 laboratory-confirmed positive cases of COVID-19. Somalia has now suspended all local flights as a health measure to limit the potential spread of the virus. The move is expected to affect hundreds of passengers and create huge losses to both airline and cargo companies.
We have had an important discussion with the House Committees on Social Affairs. One of the recommendations we have given is a complete halt to international and local flights to avoid the spread of coronavirus. Securing our border is essential in containing this threat.
Insecurity and poor infrastructure in most parts of the country means people rely on air transport as the safest means of movement. All 3 positive cases have been confirmed in Mogadishu. The latest victim, a foreigner, is said to have transited in COVID-19 hotspots. The country's president, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, is now calling on increased awareness to educate the public on dangers of the global pandemic.
We have confirmation of 3 cases in Somalia so far. We pray for all the 3 patients to recover from the disease. It's important to note that prevention is better than cure. Hygiene and social distancing is important to ensure the virus doesn't spread.
Mogadishu has one functioning quarantine facility but lacks vital equipment. Regional health officials are in the country's capital to strategize on ways to boost preparedness. A recent aid shipment from China is also expected to go a long way in boosting the safety of medical personnel who previously lacked vital safety equipment to handle suspected cases. Somalia is one of the least affected countries compared to its neighbors that have a higher number, including one death recorded so far in Kenya. And with a weak health system, experts call for increased awareness in the country to ensure that the virus doesn't spread. Abdulaziz Bilon, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
In Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan authorities have closed the city's largest market for a cleanup to help stop the spread of the coronavirus. Hygiene workers have been disinfecting the Adjame market. The managers say the shutdown was necessary to potentially save lives because of the number of people who work in the market or buy produce there every day. And that, of course, can easily spread the virus. Traders have now had to find somewhere else to sell their produce. Many have set up just outside the premises to sell their remaining stock.
The mayor gave us the order to move the women vendors because of the coronavirus. Because when it starts spreading within the population, it is dangerous. So that's why the mayor decided to move all the women from the market.
We are trying to figure things out because we have produce in stock. So that's why, because they close now, we have to sell outside the market in order to manage before we don't have any more produce. Otherwise, we understand the president's message. We are ready to stay at home. We are happy and proud of the confinement decision.
It's a threat that we can't see. It's invisible. You know there are always a lot of people in the market, and if 2 or 3 or 4 people are infected, everyone else will be. You see what it can do, huge damage. We don't want it to be that way. We decided quickly to take measures. We closed and we are washing the market.
Now, the United Kingdom has confirmed more than 22,000 cases of COVID-19, with the death toll now at over 1,400. While authorities say social distancing measures are making a difference, concerns about the economy are still present. Many fear that the country could enter its deepest recession since the 2008 financial crisis. Andrew Wilson reports from Oxford.
The UK economy took another hit as airline EasyJet announced it was grounding its entire fleet for at least 2 months. With over half of its 9,000 staff now stood down for that period, final flights became emotional moments on board.
I'd just like to say thank you. You have been a great crowd to have on board today. And now if I could ask you all to give yourselves, the crew and the flight deck one last clap and cheer. Thank you.
Cabin crew from EasyJet and other airlines are already being invited to retrain as support staff for the emergency hospitals being converted in the UK's major cities. The London centre should open this week with 500 beds, rising soon to 4,000. Inside Downing Street, the Prime Minister has been running cabinet meetings from self-isolation, and his special advisor, Dominic Cummings, is now said to have tested positive for coronavirus. But there are plenty of ministers and experts to continue the daily briefings.
So I think 3 weeks for review, 2 or 3 months to see whether we've really squashed it, but about 3 to 6 months, ideally, and lots of uncertainty in that.
The priorities remain testing and safety equipment for medics on the front lines. A new respirator shown here in trials produced by a Mercedes Formula One University College London joint venture has been approved for use in the UK.
I sincerely think it may actually save many lives by preventing patients from needing to go onto a ventilator and again saving that vital resource for the very, very severely ill.
But on testing for the virus, the signals remain mixed. This car park south of London is seeing more business, but the UK is still falling short of targets without a clear explanation from the government. In Peru, British tourists line up to be shipped home on 2 charter flights organised by the Foreign Office from the capital Lima. Thousands of holidaymakers were trapped after the country closed down hotels, restaurants and the international airport. The UK lockdown may be essential for the nation's health, but the economic picture is getting bleaker. One forecaster is now predicting a 15% contraction in GDP in 2020's second quarter, the deepest recession since the financial crisis. Given the measures, however, this is hardly a surprise, and the public advice remains the same, for people to stay at home. Andrew Wilson, CGTN, Oxford, UK.
China's restaurant and catering sector is now witnessing a gradual recovery as the coronavirus pandemic begins to recede in the country. However, difficulties still lie ahead for the struggling sector. Our CGTN's Feng Yilei visited several restaurants in Shenyang to learn about the measures they've employed to minimize the impact of the pandemic.
After the ongoing coronavirus outbreak had ruined the annual Spring Festival peak season for the catering sector, local dining places have reopened in Shenyang. But it's not yet time to celebrate for most of these businesses, including Xibei, a leading Chinese chain restaurant.
Since we reopened on March 20th, our daily passenger flow is around 180 and daily turnover is less than 30,000 yuan. I think it takes time to see an increase in consumption.
Fewer customers mean less revenue, but expenses still have to be paid, including rental, staffing and raw materials. Its branches across the country have also tried to tide over the difficulties by adopting new measures.
We provide 5 new set menu group meals for businesses. With more choices in our online shop and brand promotions, we are also accepting more online orders from individual customers.
In these tough times, small and medium-sized enterprises can appear to be even more vulnerable. These neighborhood restaurants serving lunchboxes and fast food rely almost entirely on takeouts and deliveries since the start of the outbreak. Some have to cut costs, or worse, close down temporarily.
We used to need about 6 or 7 employees. Now we only have 3. By cutting down on that, given the declining orders, we are able to guarantee other things. I think what we should not sacrifice now is the safety and quality of our food.
Some believe that an industry reshuffle will soon take place.
This small food court shows how the catering industry struggles through these hard times. While it's finally resuming normal operations after nearly 2 months, 5 out of the 18 food stores here remain closed, 2 of which have lost their leases.
Property owners are actively taking steps to find new merchants, which may turn out to be an opportunity for newcomers.
In the past, even if you gave us a certain amount of money, you wouldn't be able to enter the food court. But right now, we offer promotions and advertising to attract new merchants, as well as lower the interest threshold.
Businesses are also looking forward to more supportive policies that can tide them over, such as spending incentives and tax breaks. While many industry insiders see the post-outbreak period as a real challenge for the industry, they also see it as the darkness before the arrival of dawn. Feng Yilei, CGTN, Shenyang.
Well, that is where we leave your business news. Here's what's still ahead on the program. Coming up, are you staying home due to coronavirus restrictions? Well, we tell you how you can keep physically fit.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Cote, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Now, across the world, more and more people are being forced into lockdowns to prevent the spread of COVID-19. This has meant that many have been stopped from going to the gym or being active outdoors. Of course, everyone now is restricted to their homes. But as a result, fitness trainers are offering workout tips online to keep their clients moving. CGTN's CS du Plessis caught up with the trainer. Here's his story.
As the world grapples with the coronavirus outbreak, more and more people across the world are being forced to stay at home. That's why it's important to stay active. Many personal trainers and fitness athletes are doing it online, including Vicky Sitabela, who's got Versa Fit Club. Vicky, why is it so important to stay active at this time when people are locked down?
What I can say is right now is the perfect time to actually start to carry on with the training programs that you've been doing at the gym. But the nice thing is you can do them in the confined space of your home or your yard.
All right, well, let's show us what you got. I've done 1,000 push-ups already today, so I'm not going to exercise. But as a professional bodybuilder, as a fitness athlete, as an international fitness star, take us through what you got for us today.
All right, so what we have now is literally a full body workout that's going to target all the major muscles of your body, right? So what you do is you go into this position, that targets the core, then you go in, triceps and chest. Walk back up, here, right? And then you give me a reverse lunge, which hits your glute and your hammy, and side squat, which then hits your glute and your quad. So that alone is already a full body workout.
And the heart rate is going.
And the heart rate also goes up. Then that was just the regression part of it. You can also do the progression part of it, where my friend over here, Buntu, who's also a personal trainer, will show you just now.
This is if you don't have equipment at home.
Right.
So you lock down, you can use all sorts of things to basically fill in the gaps, right? All right,
That is correct.
let's see what you got.
So he's doing the same exercise that I'm doing, just that this time around he's going to have an added weight onto it. Like we have this sandbag with us. Obviously not everybody has such equipment at home, so what you can do is if you have a 5-liter water bottle, a big bag of dog food, or maybe like your toddler or your dog, you know, can come in handy. Sure. And it's fun and it keeps everybody busy. I mean, you still give your child or your dog attention while you're still putting in the time to work out. And yeah.
How many reps can you do? Is it start off slowly, or what do you suggest?
So for beginners, I would say to start it off at like 5 reps, you know, just to get into the rhythm of things. And as time goes, you'll see you'll get stronger and you get used to the exercises, and you can do as many as you want. I mean, it will take you about 10 to 50 minutes just to do that alone.
I've already forgotten some of them. Please, can you just demonstrate one more time, both of you at the same time?
So I'll be doing the regression, he's doing the progression. Beginner, advanced.
Regression, progression.
That's
all right,
correct.
let's go.
Let's go. So go in, push up, back, up, squat, up, side, out, other side. Sorry. Right. And with this exercise, especially when you're doing it without any weight, you can even put in a jump squat in it. So you go back, up, down.
Well, the options are absolutely limitless. Thank you very much, Vicky and Buntu. Stay at home, stay positive, and stay active. CS du Plessis, CGTN, Johannesburg.
Well, from home fitness to the rather quiet world of sports, here's what's coming up after the break. The IOC sets new dates for a rescheduled Tokyo Olympic Games.
How would you create